and welcome to Romantasy Readers Podcast. My name is Nicole, and as always, I'm joined by my fabulous co-host, Allie, who is just fresh back from her European extravaganza in Barcelona. How are you
Yes.
going?
I'm doing very well. I will say my home, Salt Lake, feels much colder now that I am back to the winter. And so today I'm like bundled up in a little sweater because Barcelona was so warm and just like pleasant, and then I came home and I've been very cold since then.
I have
But
to
it was
admit, I couldn't resist but look up because I know Allie's in Salt Lake City and comparing it to Barcelona just to see what the difference was. And it's like Barcelona's like 15, 16 degrees, which is kind of a Melbourne winter that's sort of similar to us. It's mild, but it's not terrible. And then I looked at Salt Lake City and it was like 2 degrees Celsius. I was like, ooh, like, okay, you're feeling like you're in summer, like, or at least spring or something like that.
Yeah, yes, it's very cold. And I will say, so I have started doing cold plunges.
Ooh, well done.
Yes, I got a cold plunge thing. That was my one of my Christmas presents to myself. And I cold plunged in Barcelona because the hotel we were staying at had a rooftop pool that wasn't heated but was still open. So I cold plunged a couple days while I was there, which was
Well done.
fantastic. And it was really nice to cold plunge in like 50-degree weather as opposed to under freezing. And I've come home and I have not yet been able to brave the below freezing water temperature of my cold plunge. So I don't know. Stay tuned
That
when I
is
can cold plunge
very
again.
impressive. I can tell you that if I cold plunge, I would probably die. My body does not know how to actually heat itself. I'm
Yeah,
like a snake. I require like external heat to warm me up. Otherwise, my body just doesn't seem to know how to do it itself. So
yeah.
I don't think I'd actually survive.
I feel like it's well established on this podcast that I really like to submerge myself in bodies of water, and this is
Yeah,
just the next step.
yeah,
Hot,
yeah.
cold, any body of water I want to be in.
Ali just said, "Oh, we had a spare day, and I managed to find a hot spring." And I was like, "Of course you did. Of course you
Yeah.
found." Like, I'm sure it's like the first thing you look up in any
Oh, it
location. You're
was.
like,
It is. Yeah.
local hot springs.
Yes, we did. We went to a hot spring like 45 minutes out of the city of Barcelona. It was very cool because it was one of those hot springs where it has different steps that you kind of follow. And this one, the steps are like 300 years old because it's this
Oh,
really old,
wow.
hot spring. And there's 10 steps, and so you're going in and out of cold and hot. And it was really cool. And I had the best massage I've ever had there as well. So
All right, so
really
what is
great
the
trip.
place? What is the place? If anyone wants to put it in for their next Barcelona holiday, what's the place called?
It was called Le Grand, I think? No, Le oh gosh, now you're putting me on the spot and I can't remember.
Okay, we'll share it on
Yeah,
we'll find out and
yeah,
we'll pop it
we'll
in our
put it
notes
in the
below. If
episode notes.
anyone is interested in where the
Yeah,
hot spring is in Barcelona, we will share it in the
yeah,
details
yes,
when we have those. But it
yeah,
sounds like that was amazing. All right.
it was.
So, today we are giving you guys some mini episodes. We want to keep them a bit close, a bit more like at the 20-30 minute mark because we just want to give you specific theories that you can jump onto and talk about, I guess, just really a specific topic, breaking it up into smaller pieces so that they're more bite-sized for you. So you don't have to commit to a full hour and a half, 2 hour episode. As much as Ali and I can talk all day long, we're going to break them down to just make it a little bit easier for our listeners. So, our first topic, which is about Onyx Storm. So we're going to bring these to you, these Onyx Storm mini episodes. The first one is about the three brother theory. So, Ali, have you heard anything about this theory from Onyx Storm?
So I feel like I have heard it mentioned, like I've seen people say, "Oh, like mention it in passing," and I can in another Instagram reel and be like, "Oh, and this is similar to the three brother theory," or I see it in comments, but I actually don't know what all it entails. So I'm excited for you to lay it out for me because
Mm-hmm.
I was in Barcelona and because I read Onyx Storm kind of late, I have been a little like not fully up to speed on all of the theories. So I'm excited to learn today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess the three brother theory has sort of been around for a little while because it really came out from Fourth Wing because this was the prophecy. There was often just
Oh, right.
spoken about in passing, which is about the three brothers. There's the three brothers sort of thing that goes around that they say one is a rider, one is a flyer, and one pulls from the ground.
On the ground,
So
right.
for a long time, there have been a lot of people theorizing, well, who do we think is going to be? Like, we feel like we're going to see history repeating itself, that's what's happening, and we're going to see this happen again. So a lot of people have theorized that the three-brother theory will actually be Violet, Mira, and Brennan.
I do remember that. I had been I remembered that, but I also was like, yeah, but none of them are Griffin riders. So, like, I never really bought into that theory, though I could see why people did because there's 3 siblings there.
Yeah, exactly. Correct. I think that's always what's made us go, well, and obviously there's 2 sisters and 1 brother, so we're not really looking at brothers per se. And the other thing is that they're all riders. Like, no one's a flyer and no one doesn't have magic. So that, I think, kind of determines that it's not really about them, this theory.
Yeah.
So the next one that came along, which Emily's Theories released this one, and this one was really, really awesome. And this was suggesting that the three-brother prophecy might actually be around the 3 princes. So around Arik, Halden, and Alec. Now,
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So obviously we predict, like Xaden has said, that he killed the oldest brother. He killed Alec, but we don't know for sure that he's really dead. And just like, Jack Barlow, we have to wonder if he managed to pull from the ground in order to save himself.
Or was already Venin, and thus Xaden thought he killed him, but he didn't because he was already Venin. And so that's also potential. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. And as we know, Halden right now, he isn't a flyer. He doesn't have any magic, but we also know that our dear basket boy probably is at some point going to go, wow, I really need to have the opportunity to fly something. And I doubt he's going to be brave enough to go and try and join the quadrant to get a dragon. He would be much more likely to take the risk on a griffin, to go, that's the kind of risk I'm willing to take. I'll just try and jump on its back and get the mini magics that I get with being a griffin flyer and go that way. So I think there is a really good chance that that is quite accurate, that could happen.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And, I think I feel like we still don't totally know what significance the 3 brothers have to the story. We know that it's like a fable, and that is, that the jealousy of the 3rd brother is what caused him to pull from the ground. It would be interesting in this case because it wouldn't be motivated by jealousy, right? Because the original fable says that 1 brother bonded a dragon, 1 a griffin. And so then the 3rd one thought, I really want more than I have, so I'll pull from the ground. And that wouldn't be the case here. But maybe something about having those 3 brothers is what caused, like, I'm really obsessed right now with just like how much we talk about the need for balance in Onyx Storm.
Yes.
And I am feeling like it's going to turn out that like evil and good have to be balanced, and maybe something about having dragon riders, griffin riders, and venin is maybe like this requirement for like balance in the world. And so maybe the 3 brothers
100%
are adding to that or something.
Yeah. I think you raised a really good point, which is, what is the significance of this fable? Why is it important to the story? Because I don't think that's really being clarified. We've just kind of heard it as a fable, as a story that you read to children to say, don't ever pull magic from the ground. This is what can happen. But we don't know, is there a reason that this story has been passed down from generation to generation? Was there more to the story that's been lost in time about whether those 3 brothers have some significance to healing the land, to killing venin, to being the yin to the yang? I think you also raised that the balance, that we need to be looking at balancing potentially venin and death or whatever that might be to life and to the kind of magic that Violet has, that the dragons use, and that needing to counteract each other. Because we've seen that a lot in Onyx Storm. We really saw that for every dragon rider with a certain magic, there appears to be a venin that also has the magic. And the only one that perhaps doesn't meet that is Violet. It seems like Violet is the only one that manages this pure power, and then whatever she's gotten from Andana. But another, I guess, theory I kind of had, which is maybe a little bit more, a little bit more further away, but hear me out. Another possibility is that we're looking at the brothers actually being Xaden and his Venom brothers. That what if they're the brothers that we're actually talking about? So Xaden is obviously the writer. We don't yet know who this additional brother is. And so far, we've always assumed that it's going to be either Bodhi or Garrick. But
Yep.
what if we're actually talking about a flyer? Or what if we're actually talking about someone like Holden, who doesn't have any power and goes, geez, I really need some power here. And he's someone else that I thought, while he's a bit far off and I don't know if all the pieces around Xaden and him talking about his brother link up to him, he is certainly someone that may not be happy with what he's got and feels like he needs
Yeah.
more in order to make himself powerful in this world where so many people have magic and he's trying to rule and he doesn't have any.
And he was on his way to Tyrandor, so he was a little bit closer than just Basgiath. So I would not be surprised if like I don't think it's that far out. Like I think it's a possibility. I really do. The other thing that I was thinking is we now know that Xaden has two biological half brothers.
Yes.
So that would create three actual brothers.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting because obviously Xaden is both Dragon Rider and Venom, but he does have those two half brothers that could be significant to the story at some point. I just don't want to accept that we've learned everything about Xaden's mom that there is to learn. I feel like there's going to
100%.
be more significance. And I feel like it will be more significant that he has half brothers. I don't just think they were there as like an emotional, thing for Xaden.
Yeah.
So, like that, I don't exactly know. Like, I don't have any theories about how that would play
No,
out, but
we
that's
didn't.
another set of
Yeah.
three biological brothers that we can't forget about with this
Yeah,
theory.
100%. So true. And we really didn't get enough information from the islands to clarify if they have more. If there's more to know. And I think Rebecca in her interviews has been really adamant that so much of Onyx Storm was coming from Violet's POV, that we
Yeah.
only saw half of so many stories because we were only getting her POV, that had we have gotten someone else's, had we have gotten Xaden's or Rhiannon's or Riddick's or someone else's, we might have seen a whole different side to everything. I would just love RX POV, like
Oh
especially
my
the ending.
God.
I would just, and I know we're going to talk about that
I
one next,
know. Tell me about it.
because what's
I
going
know
on
he
with
has.
him is so interesting, so insanely interesting. But
Yeah.
with us only getting Violets, we only have a small piece of this Onyx Storm pie.
Yeah.
We really need to get the rest.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to bring up in regards to this theory is so it's presented in the book as a fable to warn you away from becoming Venom, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of what it is it's
Yeah.
like, this is why the Venom are bad, is because it's rooted in jealousy. He didn't get picked, so he pulled from the ground, and that's obviously bad. But we also know that Rebecca Yarros has said she wants to write about revisionist history. She wants to write about the idea that people in power can change the narrative within a generation or two. And so that just makes me skeptical that everything in those little pre-blurbs is almost like the opposite of what she's saying. And I actually wonder if, I don't know, lately I've been kind of on this kick of like, what if the dragons are actually bad and not just the Venom? And so what if the story is like told the other way? Like,
100%.
someone bonded a dragon, that was the bad thing, right? That was the thing that they should be warned against, not bonding a griffin or pulling from the ground. I don't know. It's just something to think about.
No, I agree with that. And I think what we've been learning as we've gotten deeper into these books is that the Venom are not as we initially thought. Obviously, they hardly knew anything about them in Fourth Wing, the very first book, but now we're kind of learning more. And every time we find out that there's more to them, that they're quite complex. They have their own signets. They have very good intentions, like not good intentions, but they have an agenda that they're wanting to achieve. Yeah. They keep talking about you're part of this, what we're trying to achieve. What are they trying to achieve? We're assuming it's evil and ending the world or something like that, but we don't actually know if we don't have clarification that what they're doing is purely evil. Apart from that, we know they're taking power from the ground. It seems to be
Right.
somewhat of an addiction, and they're killing off obviously dragons and riders and things like that. But we don't know enough about, because what we know so far about Basgiath is they're not really good guys. They have not
No.
been kind to most of the world. They could be thinking we're doing an evil, but for a good intention. We don't know enough yet to know if the reasoning behind the venom, is it purely evil or is there more to it? Is it a more
Is there more
complex
to
story?
it?
Often,
Yeah.
and I love a villain that has good intentions, that has a really justified reason of what they're not just doing it because they just want to be evil and destroy the world. They're doing it because they think it's the better choice. They think that this is
Mhm.
the way we need to go and this is why.
Yes, 100%. And it, we just don't know enough about them. And it's kind of interesting because it's like all the systems of power are bad.
Yeah.
Like there are no, like, Basgiath is bad, Navarre leadership is bad. Theoretically, the Venom are bad. We don't totally trust the new king um I can't think of the
No,
other
no,
country
I've got
for some reason.
Tyrandor in my head, and I'm like,
I
that's
know
not
it's not
it.
Tyrandor. Uh, this is what
The
happens when
ones
you
outside the yeah,
where
yeah, I know who you're
yeah,
talking about.
we
Hopefully
don't
hopefully our
totally
audience
trust
knows who we're talking about as well.
the
The one with the
cow,
really pretty castle, it's all like it doesn't have any protections, it's all pretty and stuff.
Yes. We do not trust Kat's uncle, let's say that, the new king of
Mhm.
whatever that country was. So, yeah, it's interesting, like, who is gonna come out the good people? Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it comes down to that sort of saying that's been throughout all books, which is power corrupts. Too much power corrupts, and we're assuming that that is always the power from the ground. The talking about the control of not taking too much power, and the more power you have, the riskier it is. But of course, that's in so many aspects of life, isn't it? That we're saying that too much power just higher up in Basgiath is also bad. We're seeing people that
Yeah.
have way too much that their soul is corrupted over time. We don't know what has happened to people like Melgren, for example, that Violet has often said she wouldn't be surprised if he is a full-blown venom. So, yeah, it's going to be
Well, and
very
who has the
interesting.
most power in the series? The dragons,
Mm.
you know?
Oh, it's interesting.
It is the Empyrean series after all, right? Like, the
Mhm.
the dragons do have, at some point, to play a role here, and am eager for that to happen. I'm eager to know what the
Yeah,
dragons know, and what their role in all of this has been. I'm
yeah.
not convinced that the dragons are good.
But then there's like Taryn, and
It
you're like,
doesn't mean that
no.
Taryn is bad. Taryn may be, like, trying to fight it, right? Like, that might be part of why he bonded Violet, right? Because he's
Mm,
like, "I need a powerful rider so that I can fight the injustices or the evils of my kind."
mhm.
So I don't necessarily think that means Taryn himself is evil, but I don't trust the dragons. That's
Yeah,
my
yeah. And it's
takeaway.
very interesting that Andana's species of dragon has
Yes.
chosen to step away, that they're
Yeah.
kind of peaceful. Not that I don't really believe they've done the right thing in just stepping away and just letting the world go on without them, but they've kind of said, we want no part of the wars that you're in. We don't want to
And
do what you're doing. We're choosing a life of peace and we
yeah,
are separating ourselves from the world. And at some stage, that knowledge has been lost, even potentially to the dragons, because
yeah.
Taryn and that didn't know obviously where they were either. It was only Violet and Andana desperately wanting to solve this that led to them finding, Andana's
Yeah.
species of dragon.
Well, and again, we can't forget that Andarna's species, they've left the world, but they've left the Empyrean,
That's
right?
right.
They've left the dragons. They have
Mhm.
said they're too violent. They don't, they see Taryn and they think he's a monstrosity.
Mm.
Um, and,
Yeah,
like,
which
I
he
think
does
that's
not
really
take
telling, and will be really interesting. I agree with you though, leaving is not the right decision.
well.
And so I think I find hope, right, that some of them come back. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of like inner dynamics of politics with the dragons.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So that is the end of this episode. Do you have thoughts on the three brother theory? Do you have any ideas on who you think it might be related to? Do you think that time is repeating itself? And do you have any thoughts on the dragons and the power, and that power corrupts? Do you have any thoughts on if that is going to be part of where this story is going to go? Do you think the dragons are good, or do you think there could be evil in the dragons as well? So we would be very happy to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for listening today, and we will catch you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.